Hi guys, so in today's video I want to show you how you can measure your lawn, especially if your lawn's a funny shape, funny angles and you're not quite sure exactly how many square meters you've got. Now the good news is, as far as I'm concerned, you don't need to be super accurate, but you do need to be close, and it's important that you are close when you're measuring your lawns. You don't want to be putting too much fertiliser down, too much weed killer. However, I can honestly say in the 20 plus years I have been treating lawns that this method has served me well. Now I start off with a measuring wheel, and we do always use these to measure. So in terms of measuring exact sizes, I always go approximate. So when I'm talking approximate, if it's a little bit short on one side, I'll approximate. So I'm going to show you, and especially on larger lawns, when there's all different shapes and sizes, you may be wondering, how on earth do I actually measure this? So I'm going to show you this lawn now, and I'm going to show you how we actually measure. Now it's nice to come to places like this. We've got a beautiful location, and they've got lawns going all the way around. So we've got a summer house workshop, and we've got the property, and we've got a fair size main lawn here, and it sweeps around there. There's a little pond, and then there's a small section around the front. So what I'm going to say to you is get a piece of pen and paper and start to write down all the various sizes. The first thing you need to do is to break everything down into logical sections, and always try and break down into either a square or a rectangle roughly. Now if you've got a circle, even with a circle I will approximate it by imagining it's a close square or a close rectangle. There are formulas online where you can actually calculate the square meterage of a circle, and there are websites where you can input and draw around the lawn using satellite images to calculate a lawn size yourself. So we can actually achieve this using Google Maps. So if we go to maps.google.com and you find the postcode or the area for the lawn in question, and then what you do, you put on the layers map, so you've got the satellite imagery. You find the property in question. Okay, so this is my own lawn. Zoom in as much as you can. Now the image is a couple of years old, however, that is not there anymore, that is now decking. We've got this section here, which we already worked out on a previous video to be around 70 square meters. So what you've got to do, you need to right click on the corner of the lawn that you're trying to measure, and then put measure distance. And then you come to the next part of the lawn and left click, and then work your way around the lawn like so. Just measure it as best you can. We're working your way around all four corners of this lawn. So this will also work for funny shaped lawns. You can break your lawns up into sections and use this method. Now you can see at the bottom we've got a total area of 70.92 square meters, which is pretty accurate and pretty close to what we said. So we have this section here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to imagine we have a rectangle here, and I take it from these two pillars down to here and then across. So measuring wheel, reset. So we've got 3.6 by 6. Okay, that's just over 18 square meters. 3.6 times 6. Okay, that's 21.6 square meters. So if you write that down on a piece of paper, we will then continue over Again, we have another rectangle here, and it should be pretty much the same as that, but you have to measure. So that's actually 4.6 by 5. And there's another square metre at the side there. That's 23 square metres. So you add that to your first amount. Now what have we got? Well, we've got a section here, which is like a rectangle. So you have a rectangle there and a rectangle here. In my head, I am breaking everything into logical squares, sections, which I can measure. So if you want to be super technical, if you want to be super technical, you could say that from here to the edge is a rectangle there, but here is a triangle. Now a triangle is half of a square or half of a rectangle. So if you wanted to imagine this doubled, so this triangle flipped over, so you've got a there and an imaginary other piece there, so that becomes a rectangle. You can measure that and then divide by 2, or you can use online calculations to find out the square meterage of a triangle. So that is how you do that. So you just carry on working your way around the garden. Okay, we've got the large section now, so I will walk forwards with my measuring wheel and I will find a logical place to stop where I can get the biggest rectangle possible, or the biggest square, before it goes into funny shapes. So we start from here and we carry on. Now what I can see here, we're at the edge of the house, but we still have a similar width if we were to carry it on. So we could actually go right across to the edge. We have 32 meters there, and then we have to measure. We want the full width. So we measure from the hedge all the way across. And that's 20.6. So it's just over 600 square meters in that section. So we'll go and have a look at some of the other areas. Now, we said 600 square meters. Are there any objects within that rectangle which is not grass? We have this little paving area here and this little bench. So we could remove that from the 600 square meters. So if we just take a look at that, we have 2.8 by 2.6. Which is 7.28 square meters. So you could remove that from your 600 square meters. So up till now, we've measured actually very accurately. You can do it really well when you've got rectangles or squares. So that takes us all up to this wall. And then we have, as we move around the property, we have an area which basically is like a long rectangle with a tree in the middle. I don't worry too much about the tree in the middle. I will just measure all the way up. So we start from the wall. Oh, actually, yes, because we're coming down here. This is where we finished before. So we measure along. All the way to the other end, which is 14.5 Now, assuming it is the same width all the way, we can measure that. So 14.5 times 2.7 gives us 39.1 square metres. Call it 39 or call it 40. It's 1 square metre difference. It is very little to worry about that, really. So I often round up to the closest. What I do, if for example it's 4 metres wide there and it's 2 metres wide at the far end, I will come halfway, and that gives us a kind of average. Now, this may not be the most accurate way, but it works for me. So if it's 14.5 and then we go at the halfway, and let's say that is 3 metres across. So we're looking at 45 square metres if it was wider at one end and then narrower at the other end. I'm sure there will be a website which can calculate areas of funny shapes. So actually you could measure all 4 sides and go onto a website and input all 4 sides, and it will tell you the square meterage. So that could be another tip. It's like a funny shaped rectangle where it's a different shape at one end, narrower. All this section is done. And yes, you could say, let's take 1 square metre out to cover these rabbits. But do you know what? Don't worry too much. Now, what have we got here? Okay, besides the pond, we have, do we have a perfect rectangle going all the way to the other end? Is it roughly the same width here as it is there? Well, let's have a look. Here we have 5.4 wide. Now here, it's 6.6. And then if you get to here, it's 6.4. So it all changes. But you could approximate. If you see in your head an imaginary rectangle shape, now there's a border here which finishes around this point, and then all of that becomes one more rectangle here. So this section here, I'm going to imagine as one rectangle from the camera to both sides and up to the end of this. There's a little soil border here with some rocks around. So if we did an average of 6 square metres, 6 metres wide. But again, if you want to use a website which will give you all the dimensions, you could plot your shapes in there. 6 by 15. Okay, that's 90 square metres. So we have a 90 square metre size there. Well, a lot's going off in this lawn. We've only been here once a year ago. This is all we're doing at this property. We come once a year and put a feed and weed on. They've obviously had some weeds return, some self-heal, which is the purple flowers, and there are numerous ants. So I've been having a chat with him this morning regarding some ant solutions, which you can find in one of our videos, how to deal with ants. And I will try and link to that somewhere on the screen right now. So this last little section, as you can see here, I came up to the border there. And then we have a kind of rectangle there. So literally, from this wall here, this edging, we measure across. Okay, we have 10 metres exactly. Shopping bag there. And then just start at one point and go down to the bottom. And that's 14, that's 140 square metres. So like I was saying, you could have a rectangle here, and then as you move across, you have another rectangle here. If you picked this rectangle up and walked back with it about 3 metres, that would make that wall in a straight line, and it would also bring all of this back a little bit. So you would have a rough, yes, you would have a rough sized rectangle. So if you have lots of triangles and odd shapes, please refer to the any online websites which can calculate, and all you need to do is put measurements in. So we have here the last remaining lawn. Okay, and it is only a small lawn, but it's big in its own right. So I'm just going to treat this as one giant rectangle, and I'm going to measure the pieces in the middle and remove them from the total size. You could measure every single little section, but there's no need. The quickest way is just to go up and across and get a rough measurement for the circles and the middle section. So you can even start from the path outside if you wish. So that is 14.8. Now if we want to check that I've done that correctly, we can come inside and measure, and it won't be too far off. You've got the width of the walls to come off, so maybe a little bit less. Yeah, it's 14 metres. By 5.6. That's 78.4 square metres. So we should really take out a square metre for that, 2 square metres for that, or 1.5. So say 2.5 square metres. Same again over there. There is a shrub and another one of these. So that's 5 square metres. Then we can take out about 5 square metres here. So we've got 5, 10. So this is a circle here. So it's roughly 2.8 by 2.8. So call it 5, it's rough. So it's 5, 10, 15 square metres to come off the 78. Okay, so we have 63 square metres. So I wanted to show you this. If you don't have a measuring wheel, you can pace it out, but you need to be pretty good at pacing because you need to keep it as accurate as you can, but you don't need to be super precise down to the centimetre or anything like that. As long as you are roughly within a few square metres, you're absolutely fine. So the total square metre is the sum of all of these sections added together. In your head, all you need to do is break everything into sections. Every piece of grass you can see, can you turn it into a square or can you turn it into a rectangle? If you can do that, then you're going to be doing well. And then you can simply look at your application rate. In general, like I've always said, most fertilisers, I will just use the little hand spreader and I put it on number 3 or 4, and that has always worked absolutely fine for me in all the years of doing it. It was quite a surprise recently using the A1 spring summer fertiliser, as you can see in one of my recent videos, and I'll link to that somewhere up here, that the application rate was considerably higher. I ended up using about twice as much, but it did the job. It did the job absolutely fine. So try and get an idea what your application rate is. If you're unsure, go lower and see. If it hasn't burnt anything after a week or two and it looks healthy as opposed to stressed, if you want to put a bit more on, you can. if you think you need to add a bit more on to get the application rate up. But in general, if you've greened your lawn up, you're doing well. So I just want to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video.